Good morning, friends, on July 25th here in LA. I am doing this Instagram Live with my dear friend Susan Kaiser Greenland. So, just waiting for her to join, and we are going to talk today about her new book, Real World Enlightenment. And so, Susan, I can see you joined, but somehow we have to get you on the. So, again, want to welcome everyone and hoping that Susan gets on very soon. There she is.
Hi,
Hi.
Mallika. It's
How
great
are
to see
you?
you.
I
I'm
know.
good.
It's been a while, but I'm so thrilled to see you, and I'm so thrilled. I've been reading your book, Real World Enlightenment. I have it both on my iPad and by my bedside table and marking it up.
Oh, thank
So
you.
congratulations on this book. And I'll just make a quick intro of you, but we're going to talk about your journey, to all of our friends joining now and later. Susan Kaiser Greenland is a friend. She's a best-selling author, globally recognized mindfulness innovator and leader. Many of you may know her books, The Mindful Child and Mindful Games, which of course for me have been a huge inspiration. But this book is more for adults. And it's discovering ordinary magic in our everyday life. So, Susan, congrats. Writing a book like this is not easy.
Thank you. It took years and years and years, as you know, because you've written so many wonderful books.
Yeah. So can you share with us the highlights of your journey in meditation and mindfulness? You kind of weave that throughout this books, but I'd
Yeah.
love to get for, those who are interested in this path, who are on this path, and also just kind of then how you began sharing even as a teacher and an author.
Sure, sure. Well, right now I'm in my late 60s with two grown kids. One is 30 and one's 33. But this started way back when. And I was always a seeker. I was always looking for something. I didn't quite know what it was. But I didn't come to meditation until my husband, who's fine now, was diagnosed with stage 4 lymphoma. And I was working as a lawyer at the time. I had a 2-year old and I was pregnant with my youngest. And I started to research alternative medicine. And you might think I found meditation that way, but I didn't. I found food that way. And I became convinced that we were poisoning ourselves. So I became like, as you can imagine, Malia, because you know me, I became like hyper focused on
Yeah.
food. And one day, my husband Seth said to me, hey, I got a babysitter and I made plans for us to go to the meditation center. And I said, oh, honey, I just don't have time. I've got this, that, and the other thing. And then I think because I was in such a nutty place, I think, oh, he wants to go because he's got cancer. So of course I'll go with him. So I unskillfully said something like that to him. And he said, no, 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 no. You're the one who needs to learn to meditate because you're driving me nuts. You're all worked up. So we get to the Zen Center in New York. And in the Zen Center, we would sit down on cushions and you look at a white wall and you sit for 20 minutes. Malika, if I lasted 3 minutes, it was a lot. A
Mhm.
couple of minutes sitting there, like very pregnant, all these thoughts and emotions that I had been pushing away, all of them bubbled up, and I went running out to the curb. Meanwhile, my husband, who's the one going through chemo with the diagnosis, just sits quietly and he has the full meditation experience. So that's how I started. But then I realized I needed to pursue it. And now for the last 30 so years, I've been meditating, and that's how I got here.
And I think again in this book, and I'll just show it again, Real World Enlightenment, Discovering Ordinary Magic in Everyday Life. What you do really nicely, Susan, is kind of go through different themes and then add a practice and takeaways. And so, you start with these four themes of playfulness, attention, balance, and compassion. So why did you choose those and maybe just expand on those four?
Those four have been part of the inner kids model, the model that I've been teaching, and then Mallika, you and I have been talking about now for decades too. And I think I came up, I mean, playfulness is so key when you're working with kids, right? It turns out it's also quite important when you're meditating in an open kind of effortless space. But with working with kids and families, it's so important. Attention, you need attention for all the rest. If we can't regulate our attention, it's very tough to be balanced and to be compassionate. And then balance is more finding the middle way between extremes and being able to have an open mind. And compassion is compassion, not just to others, but also to ourselves, something we way too often forget. Thanks to our friends Kristen Neff and Chris Germer, we're learning more and more, and that's being emphasized, the importance of self-compassion. But so those things, playfulness, attention, balance, and compassion, they are these qualities that we have. Everybody has them. They're inside of us all the time. They're available to us all the time. But the problem is we get in our own way. We aren't able to connect with them because of these habitual patterns of mind. And that's where mindfulness and meditation and awareness-based stress reduction strategies really, really are key, because they help us settle our mind so that we can connect to these good qualities that are available to us.
And so would you just expand a bit, because I know you and I both do this with kids, but can you expand a bit on the difference between meditation and mindfulness? And I know, you know, my practice has been more mantra-based meditation, and I know your practice is more based in Tibetan mindfulness, I believe. So maybe just expand a little bit on that so people know the difference.
Well, mindfulness, I love the oldest definition of mindfulness is to remember. So the remembering quality of mindfulness is really fantastic. And mindfulness is important when you're sitting on the cushion in formal meditation. We remember to go back to our object, which could be your breath or the sound. We remind ourselves to go back. But mindfulness, as far as real world, you know, getting out in the real world, mindfulness is key so that we remember to be present in the moment. We remember to expand our perspective. We remember to be attentive, balanced, compassionate. These are aspirations that we have. We're not always going to be perfect, but the mindfulness brings us back and helps us remember. Meditation is something that I think of as far more formal. It's a more formal practice. Meditation is fantastic. You and I have both spent probably more hours than many people would believe sitting on cushions and formal meditation. And it's a very important part of my life. And that helps to develop mindfulness. But in my mind and in the world in which I live in this space, the point of meditation is for what happens when we get off of the cushion. So when meditation, we develop these qualities of mind, these capacities, these qualities of heart that then we can take off the meditation cushion and bring into our day-to-day experience.
Fantastic. And I see our friend Romeo just said everyone is enlightened. And I think that actually, you know, the real world enlightenment here is the theme. So Romeo, nice picking that up. But can you talk, what is enlightenment and what does everyday enlightenment mean?
Well, many people think of enlightenment as some lofty, distant goal that's available only to people who go up on a mountaintop and sit there and meditate as a lifelong pursuit. And there is that sort of classical enlightenment that exists. What I'm talking about with real world enlightenment is the idea, exactly what I think you said his name was, his or her name was
Romeo.
Romeo. What Romeo said is that glimpses of enlightenment are with us all the time. They're already here. We don't have to go searching for them. The problem is we get in our own way, so we have a hard time connecting with them. But I bet absolutely everybody listening to this has had an experience of what I'm calling real world enlightenment, which is that moment, that glimpse, like an aha or a light bulb moment, when all of a sudden the ego drops away and you feel connected to something far greater than yourself. So you feel like you're just a little speck in this tiny interconnected web of the universe. And I remember your dad's teachings really affected me in my much younger
Mhm.
years, of this idea of the web, that we are in an interconnected, multifaceted, always changing web, and that our all too human minds, as wonderful as they are, have a limited capacity to be able to take it all in. So that real world enlightenment is when that ego just drops out and we're able to be with and experience that sense of being part of something that is very, very connected and very vast.
Beautiful. Well, beautifully said. And so again, in the book, Real World Enlightenment, there's so many other themes. We talked about playfulness, attention, balance, compassion. But I think what you bring to this is taking all of these other themes, safety, kindness, motivation, joy, humility, and make it part of the everyday experience, and bring some tips to it as well, like a very simple thing that you highlighted here, which, you know, it is something easy to think about, but sorry, it seems not innate to us, but even just something like posture. And, you know, our bodies change our minds change our behavior changes our outcomes, which is a quote from a TED talk. By Dr. Amy Cuddy, and you have an entire section based on that. Maybe just use posture or walking. You have these beautiful quotes on walking in this as well, of how these everyday activities affect those glimpses into enlightenment.
Absolutely. Well, the posture was a real eye opener for me because I had had some surgery, and then after surgery, I had to go to the normal physical therapy. And I thought all of the physical therapy would be about the area where I had had the surgery. And she took one look at me. She says, "No, we really have to work on your posture." And I thought my posture was fine. I don't think anyone would look at me and say I had terrible posture. But when she really worked on what happened when I paid attention to my posture, when I pulled my shoulders back because all this computer time has us going forward, what happened is that by just the simple adjustment, all of a sudden your head comes up and your eyes go up. And I'm a big walker up here on the West Ridge Trail here in Los Angeles. And I started to notice that when I would be walking, I was at the time using walking sticks because of the surgery. I was like looking down and gritting and but the minute I started thinking about my posture and I relaxed my hands and I brought my shoulder blades back, surprised that the place I needed to pay attention to was between my shoulders in the back, those tiny adjustments, all of a sudden I was looking up. And all of a sudden, I was seeing this gorgeous view. I was connecting with other hikers. It made a difference, not just in my body, not just in my mind, but also in my relationships. Also, it made me far more available to be connected to the other people that were around me. And that was that was one of those aha moments for me.
Amazing. All right. So anything else you want to highlight from the book? I mean, I'd love for you to like, what is your intention? What was your goal? What do you want readers to take away?
Well, there were two different reasons that this book was really important to me to write. One is because it really is the culmination of the work that I've done in the Inner Kids program. I've always talked about universal themes in Mindful Child, in Mindful Games. Universal themes have always been part of the program. But what has happened in this world, and I bet we've got some mindfulness and kids and educators here, is that people it's easy to get to the point that mindfulness is all about breathing, mindfulness is all about listening, and to be kind of stuck. People feel that there's only so much you can do. I don't know if you're hearing this, Mallika, but many of my clients and friends who are therapists here in town are telling me that the teenagers will come in and say anything but mindfulness. Don't make me breathe.
Yeah,
You know, they've been getting it since elementary school. So the idea of this book is to bring to mind for people that mindfulness first, as far as stress reduction, we really can't tap into these expansive qualities and these universal themes or golden threads when our nervous system is on high alert. So those stress reduction, awareness-based mindfulness practices are key first, but then there's a whole world of universal themes that cut across all wisdom traditions that really lead to a wiser and more compassionate way of being in the world. And that's what I wanted to give to people, is in a very accessible, with those wrap-up section, you can see what the theme is, accessible way that people could see what they could add on to the work that they're already doing in sharing mindfulness and meditation with the kids in their lives. And there was a second reason I really wanted to write this book too, which is we live in a polarized time. And that's tough for all of us, and that's tough for everybody on both sides of the spectrum, right? On both poles of the spectrum. So what I wanted to point out was that these universal themes cut across many wisdom traditions. They are not unique to Christianity or Judaism or Buddhism. There really is a lot of commonality. Now, certainly there's some differences, but if we can focus on what we have in common first, then we can start to feel more connected to other people. We can feel more empathic, and then we're in a better way to bridge over to discuss our differences. And that works not just in the wisdom world, but that works within all of our relationships. Just this idea of having, and I remember your dad said this once too. He said, I wish I could remember the exact quote. It was something like, it's, it is a, you might know the quote. It was something like, it's just a miracle given all the countless causes and conditions that we are here right now at this moment. If you think of what had to happen to get you and me talking on this Instagram in this moment, just the number of events, that's truly mind-boggling and miraculous. So when we hold that in mind, when we hold in the mind the limitations of our all too human but wonderful knowledge, then that helps us have a more open mind and focus on what we have in common with people, and then try to bridge the differences. So I was hoping these universal themes would really help in those two different ways.
Absolutely beautiful. And so, for those who have been joining, again, Susan's book is Real World Enlightenment, Discovering Ordinary Magic in Every Day. And, I see several friends on this Instagram Live who have been coming on and off, and we're going to post this on the Reels. But Susan and I have been friends for like a long time now, over decades. Many of you may know her as the author of The Mindful Child and Mindful Games. And she really was, I think, one of the first, if not the first pioneer of writing about mindfulness for kids. And so, I've always had such tremendous respect for your work as an author, but also as like someone who went into schools and created programs. And I just feel like what this book does, it kind of gives a easy and kind of very practical exercises for adults and for parents. So just want to congratulate you on this, Susan. It's a culmination, I know, and I relate, of, a lifetime of exploration. And it really it's going to be such a valued partner, I think, for so many people as they either begin a journey or continue on this journey of self-discovery. So I want to congratulate you again.
Thank you, Malika. And it is a mutual admiration society. I am in awe of all of the work you do and all the good that you put out in the world. And I'm just so grateful for it.
Oh,
So thank you
you're
very much.
a big part of my inspiration. So thank you. Thank you. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll post this on Reels as well. But thank you all that did join. I'm really grateful. Bye, Susan.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yep.